I'm just messing with y'all a little bit. Had to run it through a loop real quick. How is everyone doing today? How's everyone doing today? Let's get some energy in here. It's a beautiful Saturday. We are February 24th, 2024, and we got a lot to talk about today. If you have never been here and this is your first show and this is the first time watching, listening, whether it be live or hours after the fact, welcome to Rush the Field. I will say this. If you want to get short form content about clips from the show, go to RushTheField at TikTok.com. If you want to go to any of my other socials, it is above my glorious big ass head above me. And below, you will see the email. We are officially launching the email for the show. If you would like me to live react to any questions you may be having, sports related, non-sports related, pop culture, not pop culture, whatever you may want it to be, send your questions and we will dedicate a time during the show to go through them and probably ramble and not really end up answering your question, but I will give it my best shot. I'm so excited. We are on episode 4. We are number 4, I believe. I may have titled it wrong. You know, that very much, it's like in the back of my head, it is wrong. This is actually supposed to be 5. You know what? It's going to bother me if I don't fix that. It's going to be fixed right now. I don't know if you can save it live. Rush the Field, number 5. We're going to fix that. I'm here, brother. Talk about sketch, man. Talk about that. That kid is blowing up on live streaming. I'm so happy for him. I have not been someone to be invested in live streaming or like truly like watching Twitch anymore. It's not my medium. It's not what I enjoy. It's not something I have a ton of time to watch just because they're such long form pieces of content. And yeah, it's like a show that you could tune in. But like also, I just remember there was a distinct part of my life where there was, when you did live stream, I was just enveloped for the length of time that streamer was going for. And for the first time, while Jinxie and Sketch, they are just so funny and efficient that I tuned into a stream for the first time. And, you know, that's not what I wanted to start the show on, but I'm excited. We are 5 episodes in. We have a lot to talk about today. No tier list. Usually I do a tier list if I want to. It's the off season, want to mix things up when things are getting slow. I mean, we are in February, a long ways to go till the college football season. We're about to get the combine, which is going to be so much fun to talk about and see what the overreactions, underreactions are going to be from that. And then draft time, free agency. We're starting to get cuts on the NFL side. But this is going to be very much a college football centric episode, because there's some things that we got to talk about. Some major movements, whether it be the video game, whether it be NCAA may be gone, maybe useless, as if they weren't useless before, but truly might be obsolete in the realm of college football. And then still got to talk about some Caleb Williams things, because as we have gone through this draft process, just more and more just like bad takes from people, just lazy takes. And I don't want to like throw people under the bus by any means, but just people just got to do better. People just got to do better. And I also want to just say this before we dive into the sports aspect is part of me is starting to consider going to a record and edit version of the show. Now, I obviously do not garner the viewers to potentially get a response on that. So I might test the waters of recording an hour-long episode, cutting it up into sections, and then releasing it in a premiere aspect. But if there's anybody that watches this show or enjoys this content, do you prefer the live show? Do you prefer me just I want this to be authentically me, and I want it to be an hour once or twice a week of just me just going for it. Because the problem with me, if I record it and then cut it up, is I just too much at that point. Someone that wants it to be the perfect episode, and I'm going to want to add a bunch of things that's going to take longer to get out, versus I can sit down in this chair, I make the thumbnail. I don't want to make it seem like I don't do any prep for this, because I leave throughout the week. I'll you see this, you hear about this. I can't go one episode without saying that, and I blame Motown Noah for that so much. But I try to pick up pieces that I want to talk about as we get through the week. But I usually make this not script, just topic sheet real quick. Make the thumbnail the day of. We got Nico Amala. I'm just gonna call him Nico. I knew I was gonna get one shot with his last name, and I butchered it just now. One shot, one time. It's gonna be Nico from this point on. But I could cut out me drinking this water, which, by the way, we got an Alabama cup today. I collect a lot of these are my favorite kind of cups. The ones that you can get in a stadium that are just these big plastic cups. I have a ton of A&M ones, and we got an Alabama one today. Just the ridiculous amount of national titles. That's ridiculous to see the amount of national titles that you're allowed to put on a cup. They're running out of room, and hopefully they don't get to add any more. By the way, this goes till 2015. This goes till 2015. They've won other national championships. This is an outdated cup. You know how, for someone that's a fan of a team that has not won a national championship since the 30s, if you want to count those as national championships, and Alabama over here, now, to be fair, the earliest one is 1925. But I want a cup that has a national championship on it that's not 1938. Come on, man. Anywho, let's get into the show. That's the opening monologue. Best you're gonna get. Best here. The best one here. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and start. This is gonna be a very much a negative show. I'm gonna be angry. I'm gonna get angry, and I wanted to start off with the one that irks me the most, and hopefully we can walk down the hill and not get as angry as we go through. So there was a meeting, and they've already started talking about expanding the playoff again. We have not even gone through a 12-team playoff season, and they are already talking about expanding it once again. And you may ask yourself, well, Tegan, were you a fan of the expanded playoff, or did you want the BCS format? And I have stood my ground and said what was truly wrong outside of some rating systems and some outlier years that the boogeyman has convinced you were these just astronomically horrible decisions that this computer put out on the field. And guess what? We could have changed the way that we ranked the teams. It didn't mean there had to be a playoff. It just if you hated how the BCS computer system worked, which I understand that there was teams and fan bases that hated that, but it didn't mean we had to go to a playoff to change that. And now we're sitting here. People wanted the playoff to be bigger. They were like, 4 teams is not enough. You look at the TCUs, the Baylors of the world. You look at the A&M in 2020, all these different teams that just get screwed right outside the playoff. They had these incredible years. They deserved a shot at the playoff. They deserved a shot at the national title. Womp freaking womp, man. I don't care. Top 2 teams, send them to the national title, make the BCS bowl games or the major bowl games matter, because you marketed this entire sport to have the emphasis on postseasons. when it was never really about that. It was about bowl season, and that's what mattered. Because truly, if people are sitting there going, why are these players opting out? And then you get the common response, well, they don't want to miss out on millions of dollars. I understand that. Has the NFL not been giving out millions of dollars for years? Have they not? Has big contracts not existed in the NFL up until the playoff system came out and bowls started not mattering as much? Because the emphasis and the decision that we have grabbed 126 teams and or just the entire Division I FBS, and we look at 100 plus teams and go, we are all playing the same sport and we are all having the ability to win a national title. That is not possible unless we are playing college football 25 in dynasty mode. That is not possible for Louisiana Tech to win the national title. I do not want to hear otherwise. That is no disrespect to Louisiana Tech. That is no disrespect to what they are able to accomplish as a program, because it used to matter if they were able to get into a major bowl game and win. Just look at Boise State and the impact that had and how we have such a romance with those years of them beating Oklahoma with the Statue of Liberty play. You know, that wasn't a national title and everyone was happy about it. But instead, we pivoted because this boogeyman of the BCS and the computer system that screwed some of the best teams we've seen. And God forbid, one team gets screwed on some outlier years, but we had some of the best national titles. We had some of the best bowl games during that era in the early 2000s. And now we have to live in a world where everyone has convinced themselves that everyone can play for the same playoff. I'm sorry, you are not going to be able to get March Madness in college football. It is not the same sport. In college basketball, you are able to get hot from three. You are able to scheme your way into close games. We see it all the time. It's what makes March Madness so good. You have 64 teams or 68 that will come in, and you get all these upsets, and it's fantastic. But most times, outside of last year, outside of outlier years, most of the time, you still get the best teams at the very top. You also have a regular season that people tend to not really care about in college basketball. Yeah, you have some super fans that care about it. I understand that. There's always going to be fans that care about the regular season, even with the college football. But with college basketball, a lot of times people just wait until rivalry week. They'll tune in for Duke UNC. They'll tune in for the big rivalry games. They'll tune in for conference play at the conference tournament level. And then March Madness hits. The amount of people that just tune in for March Madness because it's the biggest event with the sport. But you are not able to do that with college football. You are not going to have Cinderella teams. You want to classify TCU as the Cinderella team? Sure. You want to classify these very few outliers. Like, you are going to have way less outliers with college football than you are going to have with basketball. Like, it is guaranteed every single year with March Madness that some team is going to be a Cinderella. That's not guaranteed with college football. You more times than not, like excessively more times than not, you are going to just get the same result that you would have had if you just put the top two teams in. And the part that also sucks, which is why I mentioned the emphasis in the people that care about the regular season, is college football is a regular season sport, whether you like it or not. The best parts of most of college football fans' memory that were able to experience the 2000s and pre-playoff football was some of the regular season games. I hate to break it to you, there was an era where a 6-6 team could face an 8-4 or no. Like, a team was scraping to get to 6-6, and it really mattered. It was like regular season games that had no implication to even BCS bowls or implications to the playoff, or they had no shot at making a major bowl game, but the games still mattered. They still mattered. And now, to get back to my point, now that you decide to expand the playoff, because you go to 12 teams, the committee's going to look at it and be, well, what's stopping us now? Because I guarantee you, they didn't want to stop at 12 at first. I don't think they wanted to go to 12. They wanted to go farther. But now they're just kind of walking us through it because they painted the picture that this 4-team playoff that, by the way, they implemented is the big boogeyman. It's the scariest thing. How dare we have this system that screws out TCU and all these other teams in the past 10 years, that the fifth-ranked team just gets screwed out of this extreme opportunity to play for the great national title that everyone has this opportunity to play for. You know what we're going to do to fix that? We're going to go to 12 teams. We're going to go to 16 later, but we're going to go to 12 to see how people like it. What we're going to do is put auto bids for a group of 5 school that's going to go be sent like a lamb to the slaughter to go convince themselves that they have this opportunity to play for the national title, because we're all playing the same sport and we all have the same goal of we are all going to win the national title. And that idea alone is the issue with expanding the playoff. Because I hate to say it, the idea and the theory of we are all playing the same sport, therefore we are all playing for the same exact trophy, is just inherently wrong. Not every fan in this sport is a Big Ten SEC fan. I am a fan of a team in the SEC, but I inherently know that there are so many people that just love Wyoming football. The way I know that is I've been to small schools. Teams from Wyoming will travel to – fans from Wyoming will travel to Texas to go watch their favorite team. Do not forget about those people, because it's all across the country. It's not always about Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama. Like, it's not always about them. Like, sorry, you were 5th best team in the nation. Does that mean you deserve a shot for the national title? Womp freaking womp. Don't care, dude. Because what ESPN has done and what they have convinced the public is that that's all that matters. And that is inherently what made college football so special, was the regular season. And to pivot to 16 teams, to expand on that idea that more teams, the 16th best team in the nation deserves a shot at the national title, is delusion. It is delusion at the biggest level. And the heartbreaking part is the NCAA, who sucks as well, is getting pushed to the side. And the people that are making the decision to potentially expand are going to be the ones that are probably going to end up making the decisions for all of college football. So we are in a lose-lose situation with power. I'm not saying college football is dead. I'm not saying this sport is going to be screwed, but things have to be broken in order for it to be fixed. And we are about to break the sport. I need water. Love the sport, man. It's frustrating to watch when the core values of a sport that I truly love, you're still always going to have traditions. You're still going to have rabid fan bases. There's always going to be rivalries. But when those core values start to get pushed around, like, you may ask yourself, what are you talking about? Rivalries. How is expanding the playoff messing with rivalries? They're always going to be there. It's not like the playoff system's pushing Ohio State, Michigan outside. Well, you know what everything is done to lead into this? Like, I'm sorry, more is sometimes not better. Like, you are diluting what made the sport so special when you're expanding the playoff. You want to know why? There is going to be a severe opportunity that Michigan, Ohio State will play each other for the final game of the year. They've been 1-2 in the Big Ten before. And I understand you added Oregon, you added USC, UCLA, yada, yada, Washington, right? They're still like top 3 programs in their own conference. Whatever you think of Sharon Moore, like, they're still really great programs. So they're going to play at the very end of the year. And there's a real opportunity that, say, 3 through the bottom are just not close enough to get to the Big Ten. So really, the game at the end of the year doesn't super matter because both of them are most likely going to the Big Ten championship. So then they play each other again in the Big Ten championship. Ohio State, Michigan, back-to-back weeks. We get to see the best game, the best rivalry, back-to-back weeks. That's so awesome, right? Winner of that game goes to the playoff, automatic bid. Well, I'm assuming if they go 1-1, say Michigan loses the first game but wins the Big Ten championship, so they're automatically going into the playoff. But you just beat the Big Ten championship last week. Ohio State's probably making the playoff as well as an at-large bid. The odds that they run into each other are also high. So you're telling me we are going to get Ohio State and Michigan 3 times in a season. And you may feel that is awesome. That is so cool that we get to see the best rivalry in 3 times a year. I'm sorry, you are going to be drunk off of sugar. You are delusional. I hate to say it. You are delusional if you think that's good for the sport. That is not going to make the sport better. That is going to dilute what made it special. I'm sorry, more is sometimes not better. And when we expand the playoff, we enhance the opportunity that that's going to happen. There's so many inherent issues when we continuously expand the playoff, get rid of divisions. Sometimes these changes are necessary to break the sport in order to fix it. And I think we are going down the path where college football in the 2020s is going to be completely different in about 10 years. Because just think about what 2014 college football looked like. It's only been 10 years. And look where we are now. We need a governing body. We need someone sensible who actually cares about the sport instead of just thinking about what's the best matchups that's going to bring in the most money. Because honestly, college football wasn't the most profitable thing in the whole world that made a lot of money. But someone walked in and said, wow, this thing's really special. We can make a lot more money off of this if you do this, that, and the third. And guess what? That's what they're doing. They never wanted to go to 12 teams. They always wanted to expand because that just brings in more money, more at-home playoff games, bigger stakes for them to make more money. That's so damn heartbreaking. I could talk about this all day. Let's pivot. I can't believe it. I can believe it, but I also can't believe it. Let's talk about the NCAA. Let's talk about how they have become obsolete. The NCAA has become obsolete. I don't want to hear otherwise. I think when we look at what has happened with Tennessee, let me make one thing clear. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a sports lawyer. I don't understand 90% of the terminology that was used. I'm using very much layman's terms when we're talking about this situation with Tennessee and the NCAA. So if I say something that to you may end up going, well, that's not right. That means this. Feel free to correct me. I'm not going to be heartbroken by it. I did the bare minimum research. I watched some people that try to phrase it in different ways just because when we get into these lawsuits, terminology is so critical. So I don't want to mess up, but in just very broad terms, I need to talk about this. The NCAA wanted to put sanctions or investigate Tennessee football or the University of Tennessee for Nico's recruitment and the NIL rules they want to enforce. Tennessee responds and goes, dude, you have changed the NIL rules by the day. I can blink and you've probably changed the rule. As an institution and an organization, how are we expected to keep up with these rules when you cannot solidify them and understand what is that you want from the NIL? What What governing body do you serve when you are not able to consistently put out hard, standardized rules for NIL? How is an organization expected to be ran? How is an organization expected to know what is good, what is bad? And why is it the name of the game, just don't get caught? Because Tennessee looks around and goes, first of all, you picked on us once. You picked on us, you got us for cheating, like by every means. Does it negate the cheating aspect? No, but also everyone else cheats. And Tennessee got tired of the game of, why are we pointing at each other when we get caught by the NCAA, by the man that has the gun in his hand? Start pointing at each other, blaming each other. Well, he's cheating. He's cheating. Look at Ole Miss. Look at Alabama. Look at Florida. Look at A&M. Look at Texas. Look at Oklahoma. Like, why are we pointing fingers when we get caught, when the man with the handgun pointing at us is the issue? That they continuously change the rules and then be trying to catch us so that they could fine us, so that they can continuously feel like they're this overall governing power over collegiate teams. When in reality, the NCAA picks and chooses when they want to investigate a team. They pick and choose when they want to actually come in and be a place of power. And when they make their decisions, they're outdated and they're poor decisions. Just look at Tez Walker in North Carolina. They basically gaslit North Carolina and said, well, you should have put in the paperwork. It's not really on us. The NCAA is losing its power, and they are panicking because Tennessee won. Tennessee ended up suing the NCAA. They sued and won. I believe the decision hasn't been finalized, but the decision, and I'm just going to, I pulled from this clip, or this article clip. The decision was preventing the NCAA from enforcing its NIL rules against any school and giving student athletes latitude on signing deals. This is major. This should not be understated. This should not be just glossed over. This is huge for the sport, for better and for worse. Why is it for better, Tegan? Well, the NCAA is getting screwed, and I'm always going to be for that. I will always be fully happy with that. I will be just enamored with the fact that the NCAA is panicking probably right now because they are losing their power. If they can't sanction, if they can't investigate, what purpose do they really have? And that would lean into the fact that college football should be separated from the other sports and should have its own governing body, its own players association to protect the players, yada, yada, yada. Yes, is it sounding like the NFL? Doesn't mean it has to be the NFL. Just sometimes you need some institutional organization to better fit the sport, but I digress. The NCAA is getting screwed, and I'll always be happy about it. The bad part is we have just basically legalized tampering. It can't be just a win-win. You just can't get a win without a little bit of a loss. And was tampering already happening? Yes. But you legalized it. You basically just open the floodgates for people to be open about it. I'm so curious what the ramifications are, because I don't want to specify on Tennessee because it's the decision is a rippling effect with the rest of college. So Tennessee, I'm sure, is very happy, and Vol's Twitter or Volunteers Twitter is very adamant about how this decision is a huge win. Don't let them lie to you. There's still some negative side effects, but there's also I think College Football Nerds puts it out a very interesting perspective. I would say slightly naive to the fact that tampering is still legal and boosters, and like I think the biggest takeaway from this is boosters can now contact, I believe, recruits anytime, but also the NCAA just like they're like a power trip child. You know what they just recently did? They decided that you cannot decorate hotel rooms for recruits. You are like, I don't want to hear a single NFL fan, like a solely NFL fan, because I love the NFL, but like I don't want one that just that they go, we're the no fun league. we're not allowed to have any fun. Have you ever heard of the NCAA? They're putting a ban on decorating recruits' hotel rooms. God forbid you specialize the experience. Yeah, was there probably a check? Little check in those decorations? Cool. You have a little check in there. Well, like they haven't been doing that for years. Like I swear the NCAA just decides to pick and choose when they really care. And it's just so sad to watch. I thought I would have so much more to say, but that 16 team playoff really irked me. It irked me. It bothered me. I want to move on. We got college football 25 to talk about. We got Caleb Williams to talk about. And I asked actually on the fly, we are going to talk a little bit about the Johnny Manziel interview and documentary because I have a lot more to say about that than I think I realized. And I was more worried to put it in because I think I was going to go on a tangent, but we're at the half point of the show. If you have been watching, if you've been listening, thank you so much for listening. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Go give a follow to the socials. Go leave a question down in the Gmail. Thank you guys so much for watching. Genuinely, if you've been here halfway through the show, I'm really trying to build this thing up. They say, or I really heard it from the Coping Hour. You don't make it until you make it to 30 episodes. And we are 5 episodes in, which means we only have 25 more to go till we hit that 30 episode mark. And I'm so excited. So please come join the show. We are live for Rush the Field here today. So let's talk. Let's pivot. Let's take a sip of water because I have a feeling I have a lot to say on this one. Why? No, I don't want to start with why. Objectively, the Johnny Manziel, Shannon Sharpe interview was better than the documentary that came out, I believe, last year. And isn't that crazy that all it takes is an interview and a little bit of patience, and you get everything you ever wanted in a interview with Shannon Sharpe, who is also doing a fantastic job. And ever since he has left the horrible human being that is Shannon, not Shannon Sharpe, Skip Bayless, ever since Shannon Sharpe separated himself from Skip Bayless, he's just been killing it. He's been doing fantastic. Whether you agree with his takes, he's just been really diving deep. Him and Ocho Cinco, fantastic podcast. But that's not what I want to talk about. I think it's the Shay Shay's Room. He has an interview with Johnny Manziel. And the big takeaway I had with Manziel's documentary, as someone that grew up watching Johnny Manziel, he's my favorite collegiate athlete. I watched the rise and fall. Was someone that was watching the TMZ videos, was heartbroken by every news story, was rooting for him, was so hyped when he hit that deep crosser against, I believe, the Jets when he was on the Browns. I thought that was the turning point. And every single time I thought there was a turning point, I swear I paid a subscription to go watch him play Canadian football. That is the passion, that is the fan that I was for Johnny Manziel. And I understand he was not a great human being. He was honestly a terrible role model for me to have when I was at the age that I was watching college football. But he is the reason why I have such a love for this sport. So I was excited for the documentary. But the documentary, and here's an issue, and this is the issue with documentaries really in general, is they are coming out too quickly. You got to let it marinate. You got to let it sit. I understand people wanted the Florida documentary and they had great moments, but there were still some things that are missing. You had the Manziel documentary. It's just missing the special sauce. It's just missing the sauce. And by sauce, I mean just that extra level of what you could grab at the surface level. You dive a little bit deeper. You could find that. I was probably just a step below that because of just how much I followed him and everything like that. So I was at that level, and everything I was taught, did I get that extra level of depth from that documentary? Not really. There's so many characters like Kevin Sumlin and pieces that were just kind of left out. You didn't have like Mike Evans talking about it. And so truly, if you're not going to get everyone on board, you really just want to be asking Manziel questions. Obviously, you get the agent, you get the that aspect, which is something that I didn't know about. You get the aspect with the friend, and you don't get a deep dive of the fallout about that, but you also find out that he was bluffing about being the super rich, like coming up. You miss out on the fact that he was this rich kid when he really wasn't, and that was his bluff for like signing autographs and all these different things, right? So you get nuggets, but you really felt you already knew the story, and obviously this is coming from someone that followed his life from beginning to end because he was my favorite college football player ever, and I wanted him to succeed, and I'm happy he's doing better now. That interview gave, as an A&M fan, and an A&M, like, I have been a fan of that program all my life. It made just so much sense, but in a way that you get new information. The fact that he wanted to come back with Cliff Kingsbury, there was rumblings about that. I always thought it was fake. Apparently they were real. That was cool to find out. Kevin Sumlin partying, like the Kevin Sumlin effect, and what he was like as a person, and the what he left that program at. The Kyler Murray aspect is heartbreaking because I still think about that all the time. The fact that they brought in Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray, and it didn't work out for either side of the coin, and you left an incredible talent like Kyler Murray. I mean, I remember when he was wearing the all-black uniforms, and he came in, I believe, for the first time. I don't think it was a start, but he just came in. He was different. He moved different, and it just baffles me that the program didn't see it and didn't give him the keys, like Manziel said. And I didn't know how intricate Manziel was in that recruitment. It's heartbreaking. And the way that A&M treated him before, now he's all the way in. I also get a much better understanding of what his childhood was like, because sometimes it just got interrupted by other aspects, when in reality, when we were wanting the Manziel documentary, we wanted to hear his side of the story. We wanted to hear what his perspective was and what was going on. I didn't know that LeBron was still in contact with him. I assumed by the time things started going down the hill, he would be not contacting them, and he was truly alone. No, he still had people that he was very close with reaching out, and he was just at a dark place. The stories he was able to say on that Shannon Sharp interview were so much better than what that documentary was. No disrespect to the creators. It's just that interview had the depth. That interview had the sauce. That interview was everything you were looking for in that documentary. And I'm happy it came out. I will say this. I will always say this on the show. Manziel, you will forever be the number one guy that I want to interview. I want to ask him questions. I feel like there's just, as the years will pass, we will get more and more stories about the biggest frat boy in collegiate history. And I'm so happy he's doing better. Truly, really happy for the guy. But that's my take on the interview. I watched it at work, and it made my jaw drop, the fact that it was so much better than the documentary. Let's talk about college football 25. Are we getting baited by the marketing? And you may ask yourself, well, you may push back and you go, don't be so negative. Be happy the game's coming out. The marketing's great. It's coordinated. All these teams posting, we are in the game. You have players posting. The $600 and the free copy of the game, if you say they should be getting more, they should be getting less, I don't care, man. I think everyone is at the point where I think some of the aspects aren't monetary. And I think Mike Wright, former Vanderbilt quarterback, he may still be at Vanderbilt, but I believe he went in the transfer portal. Could be wrong about that. He even goes, some things, like he put in the comment section, and obviously it's one man's opinion. He just goes, some things aren't always about money. I think as fans, we forget, because we're able to put ourselves in the game all the time. It's a feature. It's a big deal. You create a player. You create a career mode. That it's kind of like normal to feel that we could put ourselves in the game. But to be truly in the video game is something that, like, I feel these athletes and people forget that it's just invaluable. You are in the video game. Now, obviously, there's guys that just don't care. Some guys will just take the $600 and the free copy, give it to their friend, and they're $600 richer than they were before. And I think a lot of people forget that not every single guy's getting NIL deals. Not every single player is getting, like, the backup cornerback for Wyoming is not getting these crazy NIL deals. So, yeah, he's going to take $600 and a free $70 game. Sorry, like, what number would have been satisfying? I understand we could do the math about the revenue, but I think a lot of people also forget about the other operating costs and the fact that EA needs to make money on this game. It is a business. Sure, would I love for the guys to make a ton of money? Of course. But then you have the union coming out saying they're getting completely screwed. I don't want to speak for everyone, but in my opinion, just I think everyone's at that point where it's just I'm happy to be in the game, $600 richer, and move on. If you're that upset, you don't have to be in the game. And I think that's EA's decision. If you're that upset about the money and you don't want it, don't have to be in the game. Now, if someone wants to be bold enough to sue EA, then we're right back where we're at. But that's my thoughts on the $600 stipend for being in the game, and I'm excited for it. The marketing is great, and the hype. The Chris Fowler video was huge. If you have not seen, Chris Fowler comes out. He talks about how he's in the smallest room of the house, and he's doing all the voice lines for every single school. You could hear the passion in his voice. I like the game, and the realism is going to be so good that honestly, like I'm not lowering my expectations. If anything, they're getting higher, and I think they should be. Yeah, could the gameplay? I think a lot of people are finally coming around to the fact that NCAA 14 was not the perfect gameplay, but it was just good enough and it was just detailed enough where Dynasty was so good and it was the only college game that we've had. Also, one thing to pivot real quick, can we please get a college basketball game? That would be so much fun. But I think this is just the step one. And I understand EA is going to have Ultimate Team. It's already been announced. You'd think they weren't. Come on, it is a free money maker for them. But I think they have a very clear understanding that you can't do what you do with Madden. And you know what's one effect? One effect of this game coming out for NCAA 25, actually college football 25, screw the NCAA, they don't deserve that name, is Madden's going to have competition now. Madden's actually going to have a game to rival. There's not another football game out there. We have Retro Bowl, which you could argue is better than Madden, but there's actually a game that's going to rival Madden because obviously there was always that idea that I always thought NCAA is better than Madden, but you're going to have some people from Madden who are so Madden heads that are going to be like, why can't we have the same detail and realism that college games do? And I'm excited for that as someone that plays video games. And I will say it made me so happy watching Josh Pate try to talk about video games because he was very open about it. He's like, I don't play them. But his producer, Jesse, was very much helpful, and he was able to reiterate what a lot of us college football fans that play this video game are so excited about. And I think it is so so refreshing to know that they really are trying to show that they care. I just have very high expectations. And every single time there's going to be news, I'm going to talk about it. This game is going to be so much fun. I want, like, at this point, I don't want to be negative about it. I don't want to say it's going to suck. I don't want to say keep your expectations low. I want people's expectations to be high, and I want them to be met. And I'm just so excited to take the Tulane Green Wave to be an all-time contender, to rival Alabama, because their jerseys are just so sick. So excited for that. So excited for college football 25. I hope you guys are too. Can we shut up about Caleb Williams again? I'm going to make more videos about it just because it just drives me up a wall, because I want to make it clear about two players, Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy. There's two things that people have to understand. First, with Caleb Williams, the dude's super talented, man. Just put on the Oklahoma-Texas tape. His first game, the first time he touches a football, I think people, because it's been so long, forget just the throws he was making, the athletic ability, the ability to just make plays off structure. Is he a one-for-one for Patrick Mahomes? No. Honestly, if I had to player comp him, I think he reminds me a lot of prime Russell Wilson with a little bit of Kyler Murray. I think that's worthy of a number 1 overall pick. People can make all these like guesses about his personality. I would love to see some hard, like, I would love to see, pause. I would love to see a real storyline questioning his drive, his will to win, his moxie. He cried because he lost a game that was really close, and he has to backpack damn near USC, like the entire USC roster. You can talk about how the backup quarterback says it feels like a real team after the fact. Sure. If you want to focus on that, sure. Don't focus on the crying aspect. If you want to talk about the Max Duggan, the fact that he was crying, and I think Caleb Williams says LOL. If you ask Caleb Williams, probably he would say and he's probably going to get asked this during the interview process with NFL teams. I think he wouldn't he would openly say he wouldn't do that again. But I think the reasoning, people think he was making fun of Max Duggan. No, he was making fun of RG3 for praising Max Duggan for crying when people made fun of Caleb Williams for crying. That's the reason, but people don't want to talk about that. They got to spin the narrative. And then when we talk about, like, it blows my mind that we get through draft season, which, by the way, let's real quick thing. Isn't it so funny how quickly people all of a sudden are realizing Michael Penix was a day 2 pick, as if it wasn't clear as day already? I remember right after he beat Texas, people are so convinced this dude could be the second best quarterback in this class. And all of a sudden we get into the draft cycle and people are all the way off of him. He's like QB6 on most boards. He's like a day 2 pick. As if people were calling me and a lot of my other friends crazy for saying that he probably is a second-round pick all the way back in October. He's a fantastic collegiate player, but he also had the best offensive line in the country, some of the best wide receivers in the country, and he can't make plays out of structure. He is Tua with a better deep ball. And honestly, I hope he proves me wrong because he made some incredible throws in college. He has an incredible story. Michael Penix is an awesome player. He was so much fun to watch, and I will forever be grateful that he beat Texas in a playoff game and did not let Texas win. But I also will say, and not trying to victory lap, I've been saying he was a day 2 pick. He's not worthy. He's not someone I would invest a first-round pick just because the medicals and everything involved with that. You know what? If the medicals surprisingly come out clean and maybe he's a little bit more athletic than we saw, and maybe he's able to make plays out of structure like we saw with C.J. Stroud, something that we judged him for, he could prove people wrong. I just struggled to see that route, and he's an older prospect. And then we pivot to, like, the way that people talk about J.J. McCarthy pisses me off so much. I get it. Like, Theo Ash has a very distinct opinion on J.J. McCarthy, which I think is valid. Everyone has fair opinions. The annoying thing when we talk about J.J. McCarthy is the same take of, I don't get why people would put a top 12 draft pick on J.J. McCarthy as if Will Levis wasn't like schemed to be a potential top 5 pick before he fell. I'm sorry. I don't think it's that hard to understand why teams are higher on J.J. McCarthy. Would I personally do it? No, but I'm not getting paid to make these decisions. I'm just giving a prediction on what I think will happen with J.J. McCarthy. And for months, I made the guess that the NFL is probably going to be a little bit higher on him than the fans are, because the fans saw a dude that barely threw for 2,500 passing yards, barely threw in a run-first offense, and when he did throw, sometimes was inconsistent, especially on the biggest stage with like Penn State. Barely had to throw the ball. They were running the ball every single play. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing people in the TikTok comments just shocked, appalled when they say, how did this dude go from a day 3 pick to a top 12 pick? I'm sorry. The NFL was always going to be way higher on him just because he's the youngest quarterback in this draft class, has a live arm, and has really good straight line speed. So he's able to create outside of structure more than a guy like Michael Penix. Sure, does he have like anywhere close to the accuracy? But a coordinator and a coach would rather see a raw relatively high potential guy. He has a solid enough arm that could be tweaked, and the dude could be a really good starter. Do I think he could be a top 10 NFL quarterback? I don't know. But there's going to be coordinators that are desperate for quarterbacks. They always take a shot on a guy. And they think that they can mold him into the quarterback that they want him to be. And if they have the potential to do so, he's not Anthony Richardson. That's not the same athletic scale. But J.J. McCarthy is a young guy who doesn't have a weak arm. And I hate to say it, people, I don't care about it, but the NFL GMs and got some guys that really don't pay attention to football, they care about winning. And he won a lot of football games. So when people are like, I don't get why he's this top 12 pick, how did he rise up these draft boards? Those are the reasons. Take it or leave it. You don't have to agree with it, but those are the reasons that he's rising up. Just it drives me up a wall when people are just so appalled that J.J. McCarthy could be a top 12 pick. I wouldn't do it, but I'm not getting paid to do so. Those are the reasons that you get. Take it, leave it, make your opinion, call him a bust. He either proves you wrong or you're right the whole time. Call him Zach Wilson. I don't care at this point. That's it for the show today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Rush the Field today, episode number 5. Had a lot to talk about. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy your weekend.